we want you to do this. How did you react?
Well, first of all, we thank the good Lord Almighty for making this day possible, and also thanking Ghanaians and Ayawaso Central, of course, my wife, for being very prayerful, and all who had confidence in me to, as a matter of fact, represent their interests in Parliament. Without that, Mr. President may not have given me the appointment.
Yes.
And then secondly, I thank the President for giving me the opportunity to serve again in his second term of office. You know, but indeed, you're right. When the President decides to reduce the number of ministers from, as the media started, you know the numbers already, to 46, and you find yourself on the final list, you say hallelujah, and you say, Mr. President, I thank you. So that is what it is.
What do you think made you stand out, apart from being a member of Parliament?
The president is the president. He decides who he wants to be in the boat. He's the captain.
Yes, but there must be something, your credentials, something that got Mr. President looking at you and not others.
Well, I think I still maintain the position to thank Mr. President and to thank God and all those loved ones and supporters of mine who continue to, as it were, encourage me and motivate me to carry on as a politician. Because if I begin to do self-appraisals, a time will come that I begin to be more powerful than the one who appointed me. And my duty is to serve the people of the country and to the constituency that repose interest and confidence in me to represent them. So I maintain that line.
We shall get into a lot of what you've said in recent times, how you're going to make Accra work and a number of things that have happened, the meetings you've had and all of that. But being regional minister, how do you look forward to executing this task? And I would have you link it to what some of our listeners were sharing with us only on Friday.
No.
Roads, sanitation, power. There are so many things. You are not the sector minister when it comes to energy, but all of this falls within our domain, the region. In sum, what are you looking to do as regional minister?
Well, first of all, we need to try and put them in their right context or perspective. You see, the regional minister, who is the head of the regional coordinating council, is supposed to lead or spearhead the implementation, in fact, coordinate the implementation of government policies. And so, therefore, you are looking at is a multi-sectorial business where you have departmental heads under the RCC. And as a minister, you should show leadership by ensuring that the policies are implemented, and some that has to be enforced, indeed, they are enforced. So I came up with a vision, and the vision, I termed it, or the scheme, I call it the Let's Make Accra Work. I've noticed that almost all the media houses have been changing it, but respectfully, for purposes of this discussion and also for those who are listening and all that, it's Let's Make Accra Work. Now, under that, you have sanitation, and because of our time, I don't think I'll be able to discuss much on all these things because they are very comprehensive.
But at least you can give us the core bits about what you're hoping to do. For example, sanitation. What are you hoping to address?
Sanitation, we want to look at the general attitude of people by way of ensuring environmental cleanliness, by way of getting the assemblies to, as it were, enforce the bylaws. The bylaws are there. What do they need? They need the political will. And the political will comes when you have the political leadership that gives them that backing to say, go for it. So they come to Joy FM, for instance, and there's a waste in front of your offices. Well, it's in front of your office, so they enforce the bylaw. If we continue to do that, you begin to be a sanitation vigilante, of course, to make sure that, hey, nobody dumps refuse here. Of course, I've spoken to a waste management company, and I'm sorry I have to mention the name because we are talking about capacity here.
Right.
People who can even pre-finance something without necessarily running to government for it to be given money before they started. And Zoom Lion, by all standards, is a major waste management company here.
Mm.
One will say, why Zoom Lion? Well, he's done it and he's still doing it. But maybe it is the methodology that we have to look at. I've sung the song many times everywhere I've been that under my watch as a regional minister, the working tools that I need to work with to succeed are the MMDCs. They are Mr. President's representatives in the MMDAs. Now, most of the times they get elected and they know they have 4 years and they cannot be bothered. But I'm saying that between 3 to 6 months, if your work is not satisfactory, then I have to go to Mr. President and say, I'm sorry. I mean, this MC is not working for me. Because all these things we are discussing, frankly speaking, if you have an MC who is working very hard, job done. Job done. Because you're talking sanitation. The regional minister can sit in my office and just give the directives. It is somebody's responsibility to ensure compliance.
Right. So let's get to the heart of the matter then. How are you going to ensure this? Of course, all of these people have their own portfolios and how they got into their respective offices. How are you going to coordinate with them, being on the regional coordinating council, to ensure that they deliver? Because if they do deliver, then your work is practically done.
Brother, your question the answer to is as simple as that. Well, Henry Quartey has his own plans, but immediately he offers himself to become a member of parliament. He gets to the house, he has to play by the rules in parliament. What Mr. Speaker says goes. If you come to your house, excuse my language, you're Henry Quartey. What the party says goes. That is why when Mr. President makes you a minister, when the chief of staff speaks, you work with it. It's not what you want because it's a policy. So same as you're saying, I don't want to know how they are selected, but once they get elected into office, then they have a role to play, and that role is simple to enforce.
I pose that question because we're saying it very nicely here, but we've seen in different instances how DCEs, how other members of the setup can also fail to do their work, and it impacts on a member of parliament, it impacts on a regional minister, it impacts on so many people. That's why I'm posing the question. How are you going to work with them to ensure what you've targeted is achieved?
So that's why I'm saying that. If you're not working, then I have to write to Mr. President and say, Mr. President, I'm sorry. I mean, this gentleman is not working, and
So you're ready to do that?
boy, oh boy, I'll do it.
Right.
Yes.
Let's talk about that meeting you had recently, and we had Joe Biden meet with former presidents, excluding President Trump. We've had you meeting with former ministers, and I found it interesting because you met even ministers from the other side,
Yes.
Nia Shite Ama,
Yes.
among others. You've been lauded for that, but what basically was the fruit of that engagement?
Well, it didn't just start with the former Greater Accra regional ministers. As a matter of fact, I met with the MMDCs.
Right.
First of all, to introduce myself to them formally and to sell my vision to them, to make an appeal to them for them to come on board so that we can work together as a team. Now, moving from there as a regional minister, it is expected that you work with all the members of parliament because you see, sanitation has no political color. Crime has not got political color. Indiscipline, and I heard somebody talking about Saris, he hasn't got political color. These are things that affects the day-to-day lives of the citizen. Okay, so there was a need to engage my colleagues, members of parliament in Greater Accra. And so I engaged, including myself, 34 members of parliament in Accra. And I put before them what I intend doing in Accra. And when I say Accra, please, it's in context. It's Gadangbe.
Right.
Gadangbe. So I keep saying Accra. It doesn't mean it's just this area of Accra. I mean, it means all the way from Adan to Boteano. And I had an overwhelming support from my colleague members of parliament. So I proceeded to meet with the former Greater Accra regional ministers. You would agree with me, my brother, that Most of the times, when you are sitting in the chair, there are things that you don't really see. Having left the scene, gone back, and doing reflections, then you say, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done that. It is for that reason that I invited all of them.
Right.
And it is not going to be a 9-day wonder.
Mm.
I'm creating a platform, all of us will be on it, and I want to check their
When you say
schedules.
platform, is it like WhatsApp where
WhatsApp
you're going to be
platform,
engaging
and
them?
then including others. So we will be meeting probably maybe every quarter or every month, depending on their schedules. But it's going to continue so that they also bring on board that um, experience that they had and what they think we can do together to make Accra work.
What are some of the pearls of wisdom, pieces of advice they've shared with you thus far?
Oh, that was behind closed doors. But I think that it borders around the same thing that I want to do. How do we deal with issues of sanitation, the security challenges in discipline, and all those things? It's the same thing. But what did they do when they were there? And what do they think now we can do? Now, in doing all these things, you have to factor the population also, factor in the population. For instance, when Gizo was a regional minister, I don't think that we had close to about 10 million population in Greater Accra. No, we didn't. Maybe it was about some 3 million, 4 million. That was in 93. But what he did do, and what can we do now? Let's also not forget that this is a cosmopolitan region, and every day our population increases. So it means that you must have a short term, medium term, and a long term. And that is why I am coming up with this working document I've termed Let's Make Accra Work,
Right.
so that in it we'll have a comprehensive plan for this exercise. One day, if Henry Quartey is not there, is moved on to another ministry, I expect my successor to work with that document and then improve upon it.
Okay.
If not, you are going to have a situation where I do up to, say, B, then someone comes and starts from A. He goes to C. Somebody comes and starts. So it's always back and forth, back and forth. And I know you're going to go there.
Right. Let's get into some of the specifics. Let's make Accra work. Let's hit on that. We can't digest all the matters because of time and all of that, but at least let's talk about indiscipline, for example. It's one of the things that you discussed at this meeting with them, and you've already mentioned the issue of sirens. Let's take a look at that. And we have a law, the Road Traffic Act 2004, Act 683. It is specific. Those who are supposed to use sirens, it starts with the head of state. That is a government vehicle used for official purposes by the head of state. The second category, a police vehicle. Third category, a motor vehicle used as an ambulance by a hospital or clinic. Fourth category, motor vehicle used by other recognized government security agencies. Fifth, bullion vehicle registered by the licensing authority. We have a proliferation of all of these, and even in this time when everybody is struggling to get somewhere, you hear sirens and people. It appears it's being flouted left, right, center. What will Henry Quartey do about this situation? It's not just getting people at Madina Zongo Junction to do the right thing. How about that? And some of your colleagues are involved.
Well, I wish you could play back my what I said or my answer to this question at my vetting, and I didn't mince words at all. I did say that I know my friends will not be happy with me, but well, it has to be done, so it will be done. I just wanted us to go through the Easter holidays, and when we come back, fortunately, I've had discussions with the police, the commissioner of police in charge of MTTD. So he's coming up with an operational plan, and then we'll invite the media to join. This exercise was done some time ago, but it was just for a few days. We invite the media to come on board, and it becomes a joint exercise that we have to do. I have serious concerns about the use of sirens. In fact, on my way to the studio, I saw 3 pickups, 2 black pickups registered with blue lights and sirens, and then the third one was a white pickup with a DV plate, also with blue lights and sirens. And how I wish my motor rider was with me, would have chased that vehicle and have it impounded. It's a no. I mean,
But
it's
it's
not on.
happening. So what is going to be done about it?
So we are going to go after them.
How?
Well, for instance, during rush hours, places like the Lands Commission area all the way to the airport roundabout is a siren zone. Then from Lashibi to Accra Mall on the Spintex Road,
Right.
same. I know where these things happen
So you are
during rush hour.
identifying
Indeed.
areas where this is
Yes,
happening.
and then what we'll do is that we'll get the police and national security to be there, physically present. So when you get there, we stop you. And initially, before we start, I'm sure that we'll get the chief of staff to write to ministers and persons who have got sirens fitted in their cars, and those who are not government officials. We'll give them about maybe 2 weeks or so to go and get it removed. Then we'll commence the exercise.
What are you looking at by way of punitive measures?
Well, for the government officials, we'll leave that decision for the chief of staff. We'll make sure that the vehicles are impounded and sent to the office of the chief of staff, and because I'm sure once the communication goes out there, coming from the office of the chief of staff to a government appointee, that alone is enough a message to say, look, comply. If you don't, and we pick your vehicle.
So just to clarify, even government officials who are not supposed to use sirens, when they are caught, there'll be sanctions for them.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because that is what it is. They are not supposed to use it. They are not supposed to use it. But going forward, we will try and put in a mechanism. Because, I heard a gentleman talking, I think last Friday or Thursday, virtually Accra was at a standstill. I was coming from Adenta, even with a motor. It took me 2 hours between Rees Junction and Opengolo Junction.
Right.
The vehicles could not move, and I don't know what happened. I think some wanted to get out because of the holidays, and some were coming in to buy. Well, so you will agree with me, sometimes ministers will have to rush to the presidency or to go from one meeting to the other. We will find a way to regulate that.
Right.
Because if you are going somewhere and you are late, you have to call the police, or then we give you a motorcade to go with. So we'll look at that. That is a whole plan on its own. It's part of the Let's Make Accra Work project.
Do you, as regional minister, do you use a siren, or do you just depend on your motorcade and?
I use my motor with the police. That is what is prescribed, actually.
Okay. But you don't have a siren fitted on your car.
Frankly speaking, I used to have it when I was a deputy national security minister. It's fitted in the car, and I have the motor.
Do you still use that siren when you don't have a motor rider?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't remember the last time. I don't.
Okay. I'll be bringing in my colleague here, Mohamed Dakwa Awinado. She also has a few thoughts she'll be sharing with you shortly. But I want you to just break it down for us. One of the major problems we've had in Accra is people selling on the streets, on pedestrian walks, and all of that. How are you going to address that situation?
I'm sorry.
So those who sell on the streets, those who sell on pedestrian walks and all of that, you go to certain places and they simply take over. What are you going to do about that?
So decongestion. You've seen the way Medina Junction is working, so it means that it is workable. I met with the market queens actually, and again I sold my vision to them, and I asked them to go back to the marketplaces and then engage the traders who do business on the pavements and all that. We give them 2 weeks. The assemblies are supposed to go around with their announcement vans to, as it were, educate the people and let them know that after 2 weeks we're coming to decongest. But we will not do abaye. No Rambo style. I mean, I need to make this clear.
Right.
No Rambo style.
So how do you get the people to move?
Well, Medina, we didn't touch anybody. I went there myself with the MCE, and we spoke to them to say, look, we need to ensure free flow of vehicles. the traffic must flow. And they agreed with me. They saw wisdom in what I was saying, and so they moved back. Nobody was touched. And today, as we speak, they have given us, they've cooperated with us.
So you're counting on the cooperation of ordinary Ghanaians.
Absolutely.
Right.
I have said that many a time, that I need the media not just to report, but I want you to be partners, shareholders in this exercise, so that after I've spoken and gone, you also help me by educating the people, by also playing your part, you know.
Let's bring in Mami. What would be your question to Honorable Quartey?
Okay, so I have two questions. The first one is in respect to keeping Accra clean. I know that the president had already mentioned earlier
So
about.
clean up.
Yes, I mean keeping
Keeping
Accra
Accra clean.
clean.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the president had mentioned at some point that Accra, the plan was to make Accra one of the cleanest cities. So if obviously you being in power now in Accra, you will be thinking of how to push that agenda. And so my thing is about recycling. I think that the idea of compliance is just one element. But how many, I mean, thinking about it, sometimes I walk around with trash in my bag because I don't have anywhere to throw the trash. And the second thing is about landfills, because landfills are not the safest ways. They breed mosquitoes, and they're not even safe in terms of fires that have fire outbreak. We've had that happen in India before because of landfills. So my thing to you, a question to you is that, to what extent is are you thinking of recycling in terms of managing the waste in Accra? There are people in Accra now who are using plastic to make blocks. There are ways in which you can use tires to create a product called carbon black that can be used for roads. So these are even sustainable ways to use to help the cleanliness situation from a long term and even short term element. So I want to ask you in respect to that aspect, aside compliance, what were you thinking in terms of partnering with people who are already doing stuff with recycling to empower them to be able to take the waste and make Accra clean in the sense of having a more sustainable way to recycle our trash? So that's.
So it's a very good question, and I don't know whether I did say that I'm putting together a consultative committee, regional consultative committee, in which I have people with various or diverse expertise to be on it. Somebody who has a waste management idea, he's a lawyer, somebody has a financial background, somebody with knowledge in land matters. But then we have already started talking to a group in the US. There's something they call the sister city. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Right.
Because some of these things you cannot, with the greatest of respect, push all on government. So we'll be traveling there, and once we get there, we will try and put our proposals across and see how best they could help. And that is a huge investment, actually, bringing somebody in to try and recycle our waste into various products, as you said. And it indeed is one of the areas I'm looking at. But it's in its embryo stages. So it's in my plan, but I'd rather leave it now. I don't really want to be making promises just because I'm being interviewed. I can only share my vision with you and pray that by the grace of God we are able to, as it were, make the vision become real and then we implement them.
Okay. So we have 2 minutes, Honorable. I want you to just touch on two matters. First of all, the ban on beaches. Or people going to the beaches? Is it a 9-day wonder on the back of COVID-19? Over the festivities, this period of the festivities, we've seen some security presence at some of these beaches. Is that going to continue? What are you going to enforce in respect of that? And finally, what would be your pledge to Ghanaians, to those in this region especially, when it comes to your tenure as we wrap up?
Well, Operation Stay Off the Beaches, in fact, the idea was to get it done over the Easter holidays because you would agree with me, it involves a lot. It stretches the security and intelligence agencies as it is now. We've moved all of them to that side. It leaves a vacuum in terms of combating crime in town. So we'll see how it goes after the Easter holidays and see how best we can probably not use the police and all that, but get the assemblies to use their task force to do it and then supported by
So it's going to be a long-term thing.
It should be, but again, it has to do with the logistics, you know. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
On the issue of my pledge, yes, I have to serve God and country, and that I'm prepared to do. But the thing is, I need everybody to be on board. So I continue to make this passionate appeal to people. Share your views with me, share your vision with me. I don't know it all. I need people to come on board. At some stage, I'll need volunteers to come and work with me by way of ensuring implementation and enforcement and all that. I really want to come back and take my time and then go through these things. It appears I'm rushing them because of the time, you know, because once I pick sanitation, it's going to take maybe an hour or so, because very comprehensive plans I have, actually. But the long and short is that I will do my best to make Accra work.
Hopefully your best will be good enough. We don't want to come back here and be addressing some of these same problems, regional minister after regional minister, and just regurgitating the issues. And that is why I asked you for that bit of a pledge. And we shall definitely be supporting you. If it works for all of us.
So not too much criticisms. That's where the issue is, and let's begin to
As
educate.
for the criticisms, they will come where you deserve it, and the praise will also come where you deserve it.
I don't actually need the praise, if you ask me. But what I need is to use time off your medium, okay, to educate the people. That is what we need. If you do that, it's a corporate social responsibility. Multimedia. What are you doing by way of sensitizing your listeners to say, look, don't drop a liter, don't do this. The rains are going to set in. Whilst they are doing dredging, is it okay having your shop or your kiosk by a gutter? When you do this, for me, and then the assembly goes there, they now see that, oh, what I'm doing is not right. But if the call comes and it's like, oh, Henry, we hear you've gone to demolish this and that, and by Article so and so, you think that the human right, that's where we have a problem. So don't praise me, but help me, and let's get the work going.
Regional Minister for Greater Accra, Honorable Henry Quartey, also Member of Parliament for Ayawaso Central. Maybe some other day we'll talk about Ayawaso Central and what your plans are. But thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you.
For coming
Thank
through.
you.